Hello everyone and welcome to a new video about Eurovision. Last week I did a review on the first semi-final of Eurovision 2023 and this week I would like to review the second semi-final of Eurovision 2023. So let's get into it. To start with, I honestly didn't have very big expectations of the semi-final. When I saw the lineup, I was really afraid that it was going to be a bit of a boring show with all the more weaker songs. But I was actually pleasantly surprised by how everything looked. Everything looked great. More or less everything sounded great. And I overall really enjoyed this show. So let's get more into detail here. So let's get started with Denmark, which was honestly a little bit of a painful start, I must say, unfortunately. I'm always rooting for everyone to do their absolute best and to sound great and for everything to look good. But unfortunately, I feel like this didn't come together. I feel like this type of song needs perfect execution in terms of vocals, first of all, and also in terms of staging. And the staging was quite alright. I quite liked the concept. I liked the colors. I do wish the performance was a bit more dynamic. I felt like it went a bit slow at times, but it was still fine. But he just sounded so weak, and I feel like unfortunately that brought down the performance a lot. Plus, I think he looked very, very nervous, and which is fair. I would also be extremely nervous. I think that would be the main reason why I would actually never be at Eurovision, because I'm not sure if I would be able to fight the nerves. I also don't think it helped that at the beginning he was struggling with getting this hard of the camera. It was really painful to watch. I was sitting in front of the television. I was like, oh, come on, just take it up, I really, really badly wanted him to be able to move on with his performance. It just didn't come together, unfortunately. I think the song was okay, the staging was okay, but the overall package just was not extremely good. And I was not surprised to see that he only received 6 points. It's harsh, but it just really wasn't on the same level as the other participants, even in the semi-final. So too bad. I do feel a bit bad for him. I wish it went better for him, but that's life. Let's move on to Armenia. And I have one word for Armenia this year: perfection. I am absolutely mesmerized by her and by the performance every single time when I watch it. I think it looks magical. I think she sounds amazing. I think the song is great. The camera cuts are great. If I would give one little bit of critique, it would be that I would have gotten rid of the dance break. I think the dance break kind of took out some of the power. I think it would have been more powerful if she would have gone back straight to the chorus. But even the dance break looked fine. But and that's literally the only critique I would have. I'm super glad she managed to qualify from the second spot and that she managed to get into the 6th place. I personally think that she deserved better than the 6th place, but I didn't expect her to do much better because of the fact that she was in the 2nd spot. And I honestly still don't understand who thought it would be a good idea to put her in the 2nd spot. But it is how it is. I think, to conclude, this is visually one of my favorite Eurovision performances ever. It looked super, super sleek. I absolutely love it. So well done to Armenia. Let's go to Romania. I'm going to be honest, I was never a fan of this song. I was never a big fan of the national selection performance. I just didn't really understand the staging there. The staging at Eurovision also was a little bit questionable for me. The floor LEDs were a little weird. I didn't really understand the red, fiery, bloody theme together with this song. Personally, I would have used this acoustic part and kept it super intimate, maybe even like with black and white, perhaps. You know, I still think that this performance that he did here was better than at the national selection. Other than that, he's a great vocalist. He sounds amazing, so that is definitely unquestionable. And to be honest, I don't have much else to say about this. I kind of expected the 0 points. 0 points is never great for anyone to get, but I did expect it. I just didn't think it was notable enough for people to vote for it. Unfortunately, it had to go like this for Romania. Hopefully, next year will be better. Let's move on to Estonia, and out of all qualifiers, this was probably the one I was the most excited and happy about. I really doubted. I really thought that she wouldn't make it, even though I so badly wanted her to make it. And then when they called Estonia, I just jumped up and screamed, and I was super, super happy because this is yet another magical performance. She sounds out of this world. Every single time when I hear her sing this song, I get chills. She just also has incredible control over her voice. I don't know, it just touches me a lot, and Alika just feels so real when she's performing. She's got something special, which makes it magical for me to watch. I also really liked her styling. I know some people didn't, but I thought it looked really pretty. And the performance also just looked really pretty. Very intimate, very nice lighting. I like the blue lighting that they used. I thought the camera cuts were nice. And I thought there was a nice climax too. So I'm just so happy that she qualified, even though she was in 10th place. I don't care. For me, it was just good already to have her in the final. And if I would have one more note, it's just that it absolutely like baffles me that when I look at her, that I don't see any type of nerves in her eyes. She seems so comfortable on stage. I love it. I love it. Well done to Estonia. Let's move on to Belgium. This is another song that I'm personally not a very big fan of, but I must say that the staging package looks really nice. I like the white and pink color scheme. I like the opening shot with like the shadow. I thought it was really nice. And what I like about Gustav is his authenticity. You know, this song might not feel like the most original song to me, but it is his song and he gives it like his own flavor. And sometimes, you know, you have artists who are singing songs and for some reason it doesn't feel authentic. I mean, I guess I will come back to this a bit later, but this is definitely not an issue that he's dealing with. I think he also looks extremely comfortable on stage. You can see that he has a lot of experience, and also a shout out to his backing dancers not dancers, singers, because I really like them. And I feel like we need the backing vocalists back at Eurovision more. Personally, I didn't need Belgium to be in the final for me personally, but I do understand why it went to the final, and I think he deserved it. So, and honestly, I was a bit surprised when I saw the points, because I thought that this would really do amazingly with the televote, and then when I saw that he made it, but it wasn't very comfortably, like it wasn't top 5. I was a bit surprised, but still, well done to Belgium. Let's move on to Cyprus. And Cyprus this year, it is the song and the performance that I just keep forgetting that it exists. Every time when I see this in the recap, I'm like, oh, like I already forgot that this happened. You know, his voice is great. I think the performance looked good, But for me personally, there's nothing outstanding about it. And I was talking about authenticity earlier in regards to Gustav. And for some reason, I'm not feeling this authenticity at all in this performance and in this song with him as a singer. For me, it just feels like just another song that was written for Eurovision and not necessarily written for him. It just doesn't touch me, and I feel like it has to do with the authenticity, but other people might really enjoy it. So again, it's my problem, not yours. I did, by the way, really like his styling. That's another note that I made. And I mean, it wasn't a surprise that he qualified. I also think that he deserved to qualify. I would personally not put it in my final, but you know, I do ultimately think that he deserved it, so well done to Cyprus. Next up is Iceland, and Iceland was actually one of the big surprises for me in the semi-final because I didn't have any high expectations at all. I saw the rehearsal videos and it looked really empty, and I was like, oh no. But then during the performance, I actually thought everything looked fine. I thought the camera work was done nicely, despite the fact that she was alone on stage. I didn't get this very empty feeling. I also liked the color scheme that they used, like the green-black. And I just really enjoy watching her. Plus, her voice. Her voice must be noted. Her voice is incredible. You know, if it would be up to me, I would have her in the final. But I do understand why I didn't make it. Every single time when I listen to this song, I like it a lot until it comes to the chorus. And then I feel like during the chorus, it loses all its power. And I do feel like this might have been the problem here a little bit. I needed some more instrumentation, some bigger chorus, I feel like. Nevertheless, I am super happy that in the end she got into the 11th place and that at least she wasn't fully forgotten, that she was almost there. I think that is great. And I do think it was a very good performance that they can be very proud of. So unfortunate that they didn't qualify, but still I think a really good job. So well done to Iceland. Let's move on to Greece. I also never was a very big fan of this song. I think during the performance, I didn't like his styling that much, but he did sound fine. I want to give props to him because he's only 16, and being able to keep it together the way that he did and deliver a performance the way that he did, I think is very impressive. Like, he didn't sound or look extremely nervous. It wasn't perfect, but it was totally fine. And I absolutely loved how he was trying to hype up the audience at some point. I think that gives a very nice atmosphere to the performance. I think overall it didn't look bad, but it just wasn't good enough, unfortunately. I was a bit surprised that he ended up with such little points. I thought that he would be the borderline qualifier, and I really thought he would have a chance. But it seems like Europe wasn't behind it at all, unfortunately. So yeah, hopefully next year for Greece will be better. But I still think that he can be very proud of the performance that he put there, especially at the age of 16. I think, again, props to him. And then we move on to Poland. I am super surprised that the public stood behind this and made it a top 3 finish in the semi-final. I was already surprised that it was a qualifier in general, let alone that it would be in the top 3. But when I watched the final, we watched the final with some of our friends, and actually when Poland came on, it was one of their favorites, and I thought it was one of the catchiest ones. That also surprised me at that time, but it also showed to me that maybe perhaps Poland did a bit better than we all thought that it would. And I mean, it was a good performance. I think the song is indeed extremely catchy. I think sometimes the camera effects might have been a little bit too much. Like this camera effect at the beginning, I think lasted a bit too long. Then there was her on the screen, which I wasn't necessarily a fan of. But other than that, I thought the performance just was really good. She sounded good, she looked good, and I actually thought that the dance break also quite good on the screen. So I think overall I'm in the camp of people now that is actually happy that Poland qualified. I think she deserved her spot in the final. I think she gave a great performance. Might not be the best song of the year, for sure not, but it is fun. It is fun, and I enjoy watching it every time when I see it. So I guess well done to Poland. Let's go to Slovenia. You know, the fans, they loved this song from the very beginning, I feel like, when it came out. And for me, it took a proper 2-3 months to get into this song. But I'm finally here. I am finally liking and loving the song. I think the performance was good. I think they did what they needed to do. I love the feeling that it kind of feels more like a concert than a rehearsed performance. And I think that was actually really nice, because at Eurovision, you do see a lot of overly rehearsed performances, and it's not a bad thing. I love those too, but then it's a nice switch to go to something that's a bit more loose. And I think Slovenia gave that to us. Obviously, the charisma is out of this world. I like the styling a lot too. What I found interesting is that people thought it was a potential semi-final winner. For me, I never saw that. And I think 5th place is actually kind of where I expected them to be. And it's honestly a very respectable place, so I'm very happy for them that they made it. And I think they overall did a great job. So well done to Slovenia. Now, let's move on to the shock of the evening, which was Georgia. You know, after we saw the performance, my boyfriend was absolutely sure that it was out. And I actually told him, I was like, well, I do think it's really not going to do as well as we think it is. And it might be borderline, but I was still certain that it would make it. Throughout this whole season, I have not doubted Georgia making it to the final even once. And I looked at that performance, and it really wasn't what I hoped for and what I expected, but I still thought it would be good enough to push it through. But then it didn't push through. And actually, when they announced Poland as a qualifier, I knew that it was over. I never thought Georgia's song was the best. I never thought it was amazing, but every single time when I would see her perform it, I would be convinced and I would really enjoy it. I think she has an amazing voice, and I think she is a great performer, and I just feel really sad for her. I feel like she deserved the final. The problem here, though, it was that this song is very difficult to connect to. So you need something big and great on stage, and the staging was just empty and it wasn't extremely special. And everyone has said it, but she just needed a few dancers around her. Or even if she didn't get the dancers, she should have probably moved around on stage, connect a bit more to the audience maybe. I don't know, I feel like this had so much more potential, and if the staging was tweaked a bit, I think it would have gone through. And I'm still really sad that it didn't, because again, she has an amazing voice, a great stage presence. She's great, and I really, really hope that we will see her back at Eurovision. And that we will see her then actually in the final. That would be great, right? Let's move on to San Marino. I'm gonna keep it short. I like the guys. I think the lead singer is charismatic. But the song I just don't like, and the performance was never going to help it to the top for me. So yeah, I wasn't surprised it got 0 points. I don't think, it's not great that there is anyone getting 0 points, but I just wasn't surprised. So I don't have a lot else to say about it. So let's move on to Austria, which is easily one of the best songs of the year for me. And I always knew that the performance was never going to be as good as the music video was. In the end, I'm happy that, you know, it didn't sound terrible, it didn't look terrible, it was quite alright what they put on. Especially after last year, where they kind of had the bop of the year, and then the vocals just sounded so not great that it just took out all of the magic. Could they have done better this year? I think so. I think the staging, I would have completely switched up, or maybe not even switched up that much. I think I watched it back a few times, and the main problem for me in this performance is actually the backdrop with all the millions of dancers in red. It is very distracting, and it just doesn't look pretty at all. I would have preferred just to have maybe the white background with the 4 background dancers in red, and them in the middle doing their dance, doing their thing, and I think it would have looked a lot more sleek. And perhaps I would have also given them less choreo. I would have let them do like the iconic choreo from the video, but other than that, I would have let them a little bit more free to hype up the audience a bit more, to create a bit more party, which I missed a little bit in this performance. But still, you know, I sound very negative, but I guess I tend to be more critical of the songs that I really, really love. But I do think that this song is in my top 3 songs of the year. I absolutely love it. I really think they sounded nice. I was pleasantly surprised by the vocals, especially in the last part of the performance. You know, I think they can be extremely proud what they put there still, and that they brought Austria back to the final. And they can be very proud that they made 2nd place in the semi-final, because that is honestly a great achievement. So well done to Austria. Let's move on to Albania. I will not say too much about this. It's not my favorite song from Albania at Eurovision, but they just killed the staging. The staging looked great, the performance looked great, everything looked sleek and on point, and I loved the styling. And you know, I just love to watch them. They're all looking like they have the best time on stage, and I just love to see it. And honestly, when I saw it in the semi-final, I was absolutely sure that it would qualify. And I'm happy it did. I'm happy we had it as part of the final. And I can't wait to see what Albania has to show us again next year. So, well done. Then we go to Lithuania. Personally, I think this song grew off me a little bit. I used to love it a lot more than I do now, but nevertheless, I liked it. I like Monica. I think she has a great voice and she has a great stage presence, and I think it was a well-deserved spot in the final. I do feel like during the semi-final, I felt a little less connection with her than usual, so maybe that's why I felt maybe a tiny bit underwhelmed. But it might just be like the nerves playing a role, and that is fine. I still like it. I still think it looked good. And I'm still very happy that we had it in the final. So well done to Lithuania too. So let's move on to Australia. I personally love this song. It's one of my favorites of the year, and they're also one of my favorite performers of the year. I think you can see that they're experienced. And there's just something about them that's just so nice to watch. I can't really explain why. It's really just a feeling. I think the staging was also nice. And I think it was a deserved win in the semi-final. I mean, for me personally, I would have probably put Armenia in the first place, but I knew that wouldn't happen. So I think Australia was a very, very good winner of the semi-final. So this was my review of the 2nd semi-final of Eurovision. If you made it all the way through here, thank you so much. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments, any thoughts that you would like to share based on my views, let me know below, and I'm happy to hear and talk about those. And I will see you next week when I will discuss the final of Eurovision 2023. In that video, I will go through the Big Five plus Ukraine. I will discuss their performances more in detail, and I will discuss some of the standouts of the results that we saw during the grand final. So, see you then.